Hey guys, so I'm here with my October reading wrap up, and I'm sorry I'm recording it late at night, but I wanted to make sure that I got this up for you guys, so here we go. The first book that I actually finished in October was Empire of Storms by Sarah J Maas. I was really hoping I would get this finished in September, and it was such a close thing, but I ended up not reading as much on my holiday. This was my holiday read, and I took this with me when I went to Gran Canaria, and I ended up not reading as much as I thought I would. So I didn't get this finished, but I finished it very early on in October. Absolutely love this, guys. I think this series is phenomenal. With each book, I always am sort of like nervous in case I don't enjoy it or it's not as good, and it absolutely always is. Each book just gets more surprises, gets more epic. It's fantastic, and I mean, they're getting much bigger as we go along. I think this was, what, 700 pages? Absolutely amazing. The ending of this one, guys, oh my god. I cannot wait for next year and the conclusion of the series. Absolutely phenomenal. 5 out of 5, hands down. Then after that I wanted something quite light and fluffy, so I read A Kiss at Midnight by Eloisa James, and oh dear god, you're not going to see that. Let's see if I can turn the brightness down a little bit, see if that makes any difference whatsoever. You might not be able to ignore books falling behind me. A Kiss at Midnight. This is a Regency romance novel, and it's a Regency sort of retelling of Cinderella. It was really cute, really sweet. It wasn't the most amazing Regency romance book I've ever read, but it was enjoyable, and I would definitely continue on with the other books in the series and the other retellings. Then I read volume 3 of The Walking Dead. These are actually my brother's books, but because it was October, I wanted to try and read something appropriate, Halloween themed, or October themed, and I failed miserably, but I did manage to read a volume of The Walking Dead, and I enjoyed it. I don't love them. I'm not like a massive Walking Dead fan or anything like that, but I had it there to borrow from my brother, so I did. By the way, A Kiss at Midnight I'd probably give like 3.5 out of 5, and The Walking Dead volume I'd probably give the same, like 3.5 out of 5. I just don't think I'm a huge graphic novel person. I just don't think it's like my format, but it was enjoyable enough. Then I read Eternally North by Tilly Cole. This was interesting because I love Tilly Cole, you guys know that, and I thought this was very different from her. I think this was like one of the first books that she published, or it may even be the first book that she published, and I loved it, but as I was reading it I'm like, this is so different from her other books. It's like this northern girl from the UK, which even though I'm not from the north, I'm literally from the complete opposite place to her, I could relate to her because I knew what she was talking about. She's this teacher, and she's from north, and she's got this crazy accent, and she finds her long-term boyfriend cheating on her, so she with her gay best friend just up sticks and leave and move to Canada, and while there she meets this movie star, and they kind of develop a friendship, and then this complicated romance, and it was just funny. It was light-hearted and it was funny. I think her name was Tasha, and she was just absolutely hilarious. Sometimes the jokes with her and her best friend hit like very close to the mark, and you're like, oh god, because obviously he's gay and they have all these funny names for each other, but it was just really funny, and I ended up really enjoying it, and I would give it like 4.5 out of 5. The only reason I would knock back 0.5 is because in comparison to like the other books of hers that I've read, like compared to the Hades Hangman, it didn't quite reach Hades Hangman level, but I still loved it. The next book that I read was The Problem with Forever by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This I took this on holiday with me, thinking that I would finish Empire of Storms when I was on holiday and that I would need something else to start, which obviously didn't happen. But then I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what, I really fancy reading that. And I don't know what took me so long to read it, guys. This book, I loved this book. I flew through this. I absolutely loved reading it. I didn't want to put it down. I love Jennifer L. Armentrout anyway. And this is like a YA contemporary novel from her. And it was just so beautiful. It reminds me a lot of how I felt about Pushing the Limits by Katie McGarry. It's like along those same lines, kind of. That's what I would say I've read closest to this. And it's about, what's her name? Mallory. A girl called Mallory and a boy called Ryder, and when they are small they are in the same sort of foster home, and it's not a great home at all, but Ryder always looks out for Mallory, and then sort of they're tragically separated, and then suddenly one day she walks into his school and they're like reunited, and it was just... It was so good, guys. I absolutely loved it. And I loved that the romantic side of things wasn't instant either. It was just built up so beautifully. And I like how it came as a surprise to both of them, even though everyone else can kind of see it. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. The only thing is that I wish that we had Ryder's point of view. Because I think that's what I love so much about Katie McGarry's books, is that you have those dual perspectives. And in books like this, I always think, I just always enjoy that more when you have both perspectives, because you get to know what both characters are thinking, both characters are feeling, and I love that. But yeah, 5 out of 5, absolutely loved that one. And then I seem to have forgotten to get it down and also to save a picture of it, but the next book that I read was Do Not Disturb by A.R. Torre, which is just here on my shelf. It is the sequel to The Girl in 6E, which I read this time last year, and I absolutely love. This is another book that I just kind of flew through, very fast paced. I loved that The Girl in 6E could very much have been a standalone, but it also had that potential to, you know, be a series and have sequels and stuff. So I was a bit like on the fence, like, of when to read Do Not Disturb, because I loved The Girl in 6E, because it was kind of dark. I had this really sort of dark humour, this black humour, which I love. And obviously like this dark subject matter, you know, of this young woman, I think she's only like 20, 21, something like that, young, who has these sort of murderous fantasies that wants to, you know, kill people, so she locks herself away, and obviously to earn money she's a webcam worker, and so obviously in the first book you have the events of her leaving the apartment, and in this book you have her trying to date a guy, and also there's a guy that becomes obsessed with her, sort of a sexual criminal who's been released from prison, and he's found her, and then he becomes obsessed with her, and it goes from there. It's absolutely fantastic. It was, I think I read it in 2 or 3 days. I read it very quickly. It's just hooked, and it moves very quickly. You can very easily sit and read 100 pages before you even know it. Absolutely fantastic. Again, I would give that one 5 out of 5. It surprised me, because what I thought was going to happen didn't happen, not in a bad way, but it was a good twist, and I loved it. And I'm looking forward to picking up the next book in the series. And the last book that I managed to read in October was Close to You by Kristen Proby. This is the second book in the Fusion series. I enjoyed the first book in the series. I mean, I like Kristen Proby's novels. They're very quick and easy contemporary reads, contemporary romance reads, I should say, and you guys know it's kind of my thing. I love that. So I always enjoy them, and the first one I liked. This one, I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it, because I did, but it seemed a little bit different. Things seemed to move very quickly. There wasn't like the build that there normally is. And these two characters, I mean, have sort of been childhood friends, but the guy is older than her. It's like one of her best friend's brothers, so he's older than them, and so he could never really ask her out because there was that age gap kind of thing. But she's always been in love with him, and we find out that he's kind of always had a thing for her as well, but he didn't act on it because he was older than her. And then he comes home, and it kind of goes from there. I just felt that obviously there was this mutual appreciation for each other, and I thought, oh, you know, that's great. But then it didn't. I just felt the reveal of that was very quick. I feel like there should have been more. It just didn't come across as believable that they just suddenly got everything out there. Like, it didn't unveil itself in the best possible way. But I enjoyed it, even though it was like too fast paced in that aspect, but it was still enjoyable. And I'd probably give it, say, sort of 3.5 to 4 out of 5. So that's everything that I read in October, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Happy reading.